Welcome back, constant viewer. It's time for episode 2, where we're going to talk about this guy right here, Barlow, from Salem's Lot. Salem's Lot was published October 17th, 1975, and was said to be one of Stephen King's favorite novels. It was also my dad's favorite Stephen King novel, so that makes me happy. Stephen King wrote this book about a small town. He favors this book because of that small town feel. He loves that thought of that darkness that can happen in those small communities. And he feels, in some interviews he has said, he feels that they're kind of a dying organism nowadays. The story seems sort of down home to me. I have a special cold spot in my heart for it. So Salem's Lot was dedicated to his daughter Naomi. It was his second published work after Carrie, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about some of the autographs that I've obtained. I think there's only one, but I'll double check. Some of the toys. We'll talk about the book itself, the connections. He loved this book so much that he even considered doing a sequel on it. He was going to build off of it. We got 2 short stories that tie into it. There's Jerusalem's Lot and One for the Road, both from the Night Shift collection. But instead of an actual sequel, he ends up carrying a little bit of it into the Dark Tower. So in Wolves of Calla and Songs of Susanna, we see a character that stemmed from Salem's Lot and his growth and what he's done throughout his time since Salem's Lot and how he ended up where he is today, or in the Dark Tower. So join me, constant viewer, as we go through Salem's Lot in episode 2 of Constant Viewer, the Stephen King universe. Let's discuss, shall we? The sun is shining, and Cujo and I are here to talk to you about vampires. Let's start with the book itself. I'm going to read you some of the different reviews and things that were said on the back here. It says, Stephen King, who introduced you to Carrie. Brilliant, amazing, fine, eerie, haunted, a terrifying treat, figuratively and literally shattering, first-rate, gripping, suspense-packed, magnificent, imaginative, truly perceptive, chillingly fascinating, gory and horrifying, shivering, shuddery, macabre, exciting, suspenseful, chilling, bloody, unforgettable, bizarre, stunning, nerve-jangling, fascinating, engrossing, unput-downable. Invites you to visit the town of Salem's Lot. The cover art, I really love it. It's nice and simple, but it has that little view into the town. You see the church, you see the house in the background looming over the town, looking down on it. Inside the jacket it reads, Salem's Lot is a small New England town with white clapboard houses, tree-lined streets, and solid church steeples. That summer in Salem's Lot was a summer of homecoming and return. Spring burned out and the land laying dry, crackling underfoot. Late that summer, Ben Mears returned to Salem's Lot, hoping to cast out his own devils, and found instead a new, unspeakable horror. A stranger had also come to the lot, a stranger with a secret as old as evil, a secret that would wreak irreparable harm on those he touched, and in turn on those that they loved. All would be changed forever. Susan, whose love for Ben could not protect her, Father Callahan, the bad priest who put his eroded faith to one last test, and Mark, a young boy who sees his fantasy world become reality, and ironically proves the best equipped to handle the relentless nightmares of Salem's Lot. Now, this, on the reverse side here, it says, this is a rare novel, almost hypnotic in its unyielding suspense, which builds to a climax of classic terror. You will not forget the town of Salem's Lot, nor any of the people who used to live there. With this being his second novel, the bio for Stephen King is a little short. It just reads, Stephen King grew up in Maine and has lived most of his adult life there, both in Bangor and in the Portland area that is the setting for Salem's Lot. He and his wife, Tabitha, have 3 children, Naomi, Joe, and Owen. He is currently at work on a new novel. So that's how the jacket reads. That's what we're going to be getting into with this novel. Now, the characters, as important as they are, we get that introduction to Stephen King using a struggling writer as a main character. We see that again with The Shining. But Ben Mears returns to Salem's Lot to work on a new novel. He wants to write a novel based on the Marsden house. that is the house looming over everyone here in the cover. But with that comes that terror. Something else has moved to Salem's Lot, something that is watching over them, something that is taking them out one by one. Now, as I mentioned previously, there's not a lot as far as collectibles, toys, things of that nature with Salem's Lot. So I'll show you the few things I do have. I have this shirt that was actually a very recent thing. This came in a Zobi subscription box that they have. You can do either the subscription service for it, or you can get just the random boxes when they're available. So I got this from that box. It is a nice Barlow over the house with the vampires down below. Very happy with that. And then I also have this. This is Lance Kerwin, who played Mark Petrie in the movie Salem's Lot. Here you have him with Barlow gripping him. Barlow is speaking to Father Callahan, asking for that test of faith. So this is a very exciting piece that I obtained through the mystery box bunker. It was something they included in one of their boxes, and I missed out on it, but someone was reselling it, so I was able to snag it. So Lance Kerwin, awesome piece from Salem's Lot. There's that. And finally, the final piece I have, I guess I have two more. We have this pen. This was given to me by my good friend Chuck over at For Horror's Sake. It's a little dark, but you see there we have Barlow, we have Stephen King, we have some others on there. Amazing pin from You're In for a Scare. And then at one point, there was a mystery box in the game that utilized Serial Resins Company for a lot of their pieces. And in that came this, a little bust of our good friend Barlow. So you see the bottom there, it says Mr. Barlow, has a nice little handmade cross there on his chest. A little too blue, but it is a great piece. So there have been multiple attempts to take Salem's Lot and turn it into a movie. There was 2 miniseries. There was another kind of a sequel of Return to Salem's Lot, and they're even working on another one today to make a new Salem's Lot movie. The original Salem's Lot movie was 1979. It was directed by Tobe Hooper, who you may know from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So he was a very known director. He knew what he was doing. And he set out to make this miniseries starring David Soul, James Mason, Bonnie Bedelia, Lance Kerwin. Now, that one isn't bad. It's definitely watchable. In 2004, TNT did their own Salem's Lot miniseries, and honestly, it's been a long time since I've seen it. I do remember enjoying it. It starred Rob Lowe and Donald Sutherland. Rob Lowe is one of my favorite actors. He's popped up in the Stephen King movies a couple times and always does a stellar job. So definitely worth checking out. Return to Salem's Lot, don't necessarily recommend that one. It wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen, but it definitely wasn't the best. Now, if you caught the Hulu show Castle Rock, what you got to see was all these different crazy Stephen King characters coming together in this really interesting story. You can view it as another level of the tower, if you will, where these twinner characters, these individuals from different Stephen King novels, really collide into this new world created by Hulu. The 2019 season 2 started off with Annie Wilkes and her teenage daughter are traveling across the country. They're not really settling down anywhere for reasons that you'll find out later on, but they end up in Castle Rock. They end up staying at a hotel owned by Ace Merrill, who is a name you may recognize. Ace Merrill owns a mall property, but he's losing tenants to a development that's happening in Salem's Lot. They're rejuvenating Salem's Lot, they're putting in this new property, and things start getting a little crazy as maybe some vampires or something are sneaking around Salem's Lot. The curse of Salem's Lot still exists. New Jerusalem is what they're trying to turn it into. I definitely recommend checking out Castle Rock. It was a slow burn, but once it got rolling, I was extremely happy with it, and I'm kind of bummed that there isn't a season 3. So when Ben Mears returns to Salem's Lot, and he's greeted by this evil entity, this evil Kurt Barlow. Kurt Barlow is there to, he's an Austrian immigrant, he comes to Salem's Lot, he's going to open up an antique store. So kind of similar to what we see in Needful Things, with this evil entity working out of an antique store. But no one sees Kurt Barlow by day. They only see Richard Straker by day. He is Barlow's assistant. He's like his human tool that he uses to understand the layout of the town, who people are, get close to those people. Now, Straker does a great job of meeting the town and helping Barlow along the way, but it doesn't work out well in his favor in the end. So just check my notes for things that I want to point out to you here. He's, like I said, he's that antiques collector. You only see his partner. They start killing people in town. They start with a young boy, Ralphie Glick. And he disappears, and then that's the first vampire from Salem's Lot, is Ralphie. Ralphie plays into it later on as he tries to lure Mark Petrie out of his bedroom to also join up with the vampires. The other character that's extremely important in this novel is Father Callahan. So Father Callahan, it's Donald Frank Callahan. He's a Catholic priest. He's struggling. He's an alcoholic. He doesn't really know where his faith lies anymore. He ends up buying into this story of these vampires and helping out, trying to take them down. He ends up at Mark Petrie's house as Barlow comes in to attack him and his family, and he puts Father Callahan into this test of faith. Your faith versus mine. Father Callahan loses. He loses that test of faith and is forced to drink blood from Barlow's neck. That damns him. He can no longer enter his church, and he ends off running off into the world and ends up in New York City, that you learn later on through other stories that tie into the Dark Tower series. He ends up in New York City. He is a vigilante. He's fighting vampires. We'll talk more about him when we get to those books, but his story isn't over, and that's great because he had a lot to tell. Now, I should have pointed this out sooner when we were talking about the movies, but I didn't because I forgot about it. There is a new show called Chapelwaite. It stars Adrian Brody, who loses his wife. She dies on a whaler ship. He is captain. His children and he return to a small town of Preacher's Corners, Maine, where a dark family history haunts them until confronted. Now, this was inspired by the short story Jerusalem's Lot from Night Shift, which, as you know, is Salem's Lot. I have not seen this show, but I am curious about it. Adrian Brody is a great actor. He's done some awesome things, so I'm really curious to see how he does with this show. Looks like there's 10 episodes in season 1. It was renewed for a second season on Epix, so I'll have to check that out. Now, what about book sales? So, Carrie is Stephen King's first novel. It's his best-selling novel. Salem's Lot, his second novel, is his second best-selling novel. By the numbers, Salem's Lot to date has sold 298,080 books, 80 copies. That is amazing. That's such huge numbers. So it's definitely one that has been around for a long time and really stands the test of time. You have that story of good versus evil. You have Stephen King's struggling writer character that he reuses that kind of theme throughout, but always with interesting spins. It never feels like the same character. Even in Billy Summers, one of Stephen King's most recent books, you have someone who wants to be a writer, but it always feels like a fresh, new character. Let's go ahead and take a look at the flowchart and see where this connects to the Stephen King universe. Alright, so we have with us the Stephen King universe flowchart by Tessie Girl. This is one of my favorite tools to really connect the Stephen King universe. Now, Salem's Lot we see up here, published in 1975, set elsewhere, so it's not in Derry, it's not in Castle Rock, it's elsewhere, Salem's Lot. And we've already kind of discussed the connection to the other works. So if I follow this line from here, we're going to see it's going to take us to Father Donald Callahan. From Father Callahan, it's going to take us all the way down here to Wolves of Calla, to Songs of Susanna, the Dark Tower series. If I follow it to the right, that line is going to take us up and then over, and it leads us down here to Roland's Catet. Father Callahan shows up in the Dark Tower series. He's in, at this stage, All World, so he's no longer in our universe. He's somehow managed to get into All World, and he joins up with Roland to save the tower. So there you have it, Stephen King's second novel, Salem's Lot. The original publishing clocking in about 439 pages. It inspired 2 TV miniseries, a 3rd movie in the works. It has the sequel, Return to Salem's Lot. You saw the inspiration shown in the Castle Rock series, the Chapelwaite series. This book is one of the ones that'll go down as one of Stephen King's greatest achievements. So join us next time as we talk The Shining. That'll be Stephen King's third novel, released in 1977, just a couple years after Salem's Lot. Thanks for stopping by Josh's Horror Corner, where horror is king.